Writing from Rejection to Obsession. The rain drifted softly over the rooftops of Prague, coating the city in silver reflections and golden lights. To most people, it was just another evening. But for Luca Moretti, it was the beginning of a journey that would change his life forever. For 3 years, Luca had loved Emma Laurent. Not from a distance, not in secret. They were friends. They studied together at university, shared coffee between classes, and spent countless afternoons wandering through Prague's beautiful streets. Emma trusted him. She laughed at his jokes. She listened when he spoke. And with every passing day, Luca fell deeper in love. He convinced himself that one day she would feel the same way. One day, she would see what he saw. One day, she would choose him. On a cold autumn evening, Luca finally decided to tell her. Standing on the historic Charles Bridge, with the river flowing quietly beneath them, he held a bouquet of white roses in trembling hands. His heart pounded so hard he could barely breathe. "Emma," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." She smiled. "What is it?" Luca swallowed hard. "I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air. For a brief moment, the entire world seemed frozen. Emma's smile slowly faded, not because she was angry, not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she already knew what she had to say. "I'm sorry, Luca." His chest tightened. "I care about you so much." She paused. "But I don't love you that way." The white roses slipped from his fingers. The sound of them hitting the wet stone felt louder than thunder. 3 years of hope disappeared in a matter of seconds. Emma reached for his arm. "I'm sorry." But there was nothing else she could say. Slowly, she turned and walked away. Luca remained standing there long after she disappeared. Watching the river, watching the city lights, trying to understand how everything could hurt so much. The days that followed became weeks. The weeks became months. Luca withdrew from everyone. He stopped answering calls. He stopped meeting friends. He stopped living the life he once enjoyed. Instead, he replayed that moment over and over again. Every word, every expression, every second. At first, it was heartbreak. Then sadness. Then loneliness. But slowly, something darker began to grow. Instead of accepting Emma's decision, Luca became trapped by it. He began watching her social media every day. He noticed where she went, when she went, who she spent time with. He convinced himself that if he understood enough, something might change. But nothing changed. Emma continued living her life. And eventually, she met someone new. His name was Daniel. He was a young architect from Vienna. Kind, confident, thoughtful. The kind of person who made people feel safe. Emma and Daniel quickly became close. Before long, they were inseparable. For the first time in years, Emma looked genuinely happy. The photographs appeared online. Smiling faces, weekend trips, Christmas markets, future plans. Every image felt like another wound to Luca's heart. He stared at them for hours, as if looking long enough could somehow change reality. But reality remained the same. Emma loved Daniel, not him. One snowy evening, Luca found himself walking through Prague's Christmas market. The air smelled of cinnamon and roasted chestnuts. Children laughed beneath strings of golden lights. Music echoed through the streets. Then he saw her, Emma, standing beside Daniel, smiling, happy. For a moment, Luca simply watched, unable to look away. Then Emma turned. Their eyes met. Immediately, her smile disappeared. Something felt wrong. The way he stood there. The way he watched her. The way he seemed unable to let go. For the first time, Emma felt afraid. The next morning, she asked to meet him. They sat together in a quiet park. Snow covered the ground around them. Luca looked exhausted. Emma took a deep breath. "Luca, this has to stop." He stared at the frozen ground. The next morning, she asked to meet him. They sat together in a quiet park. Snow covered the ground around them. Luca looked exhausted. Emma took a deep breath. "Luca, this has to stop." He stared at the frozen ground. You were supposed to choose me. His voice cracked. Emma closed her eyes. When she spoke, her words were gentle but firm. No, Luca. She looked directly at him. I was never supposed to belong to anyone. The sentence struck him harder than any rejection. Because for the first time, he understood what she meant. Love was never ownership. Love was never control. Love was never forcing another person to feel something they didn't feel. He had spent so much time chasing the fantasy of who he wanted Emma to be that he had forgotten who she actually was. A person, a human being, someone free to make her own choices. A few weeks later, Emma moved to Vienna with Daniel. Luca stood alone at the train station. The train slowly pulled away. He watched until it disappeared from sight. And then he faced a choice. Continue living in the past. Or finally move forward. The road wasn't easy. Healing never is. But Luca began rebuilding his life. He sought help. He reconnected with friends. He learned to accept rejection without allowing it to define his worth. Months became years. Little by little, the pain lost its power. One spring morning, years later, Luca returned to Charles Bridge. The same river flowed beneath him. The same city surrounded him. Yet everything felt different. Because he was different, he no longer carried the weight of obsession. He no longer carried the belief that his happiness depended on someone else's love. As the morning sun painted the city gold, Luca smiled. Not because he had forgotten Emma, but because he had finally forgiven himself. He understood now that rejection is not proof that you are unworthy. It is simply proof that two hearts wanted different things. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is let go of what they cannot change. The river continued flowing toward the horizon. And for the first time in many years, Luca felt free enough to follow his own path. His story had not ended with rejection. It had begun with it. And that made all the difference.